to the first feature video from Lost the Dressing Room. Don't forget, follow us on Twitter, give us a like on Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I am joined by the rest of the Lost Dressing Room team. That's Kyle Taylor, Robbie Stott, and Michael Thompson. So, with an international break ahead of us, we're going to be sharing our views on the latest three-line squad selected by Gareth Southgate, make some suggestions for alternative options, and then preview the 3 games ahead. Good evening, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening.
Hello,
Chris.
Are we all well?
Yes.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That Kyle is straight in there with the England shirt that he's recently obtained, and yet Rob representing too. Mike couldn't be bothered, and I don't have an England shirt that fits me since I was about 14 years old. So that is our life. I think the last one I had was a shirt for Euro 2004. Let's skip over that. First things first, then, the England squad that Gareth Southgate's announced. We're going to go through a bit more detail later on. The first big omission, though, of course, Trent Alexander-Arnold being dropped. Not a massive surprise on form. What do we think?
Agree. Yeah, poor. I think he's more poor. I liken this to the Harry Potter films against the books. If the films had come out on their own, fantastic. The books are there. Trent's had, 3 great seasons, 2 great seasons, and now he's not at that standard, but he's still a very good right back. He's not turning down for the majority of Premier League teams. He's still a great player. He's just not performing to what his standard has been over the last couple of seasons. So take those seasons away, probably having a really decent season. But unfortunately for him, it's not up to his usual.
Totally agree. I think if you look at the statement Southgate came out and said was all around his form and how he's been this season and, not living up to his own standards. And I think that's absolutely right. You think about the Trent Alexander-Arnold of a season ago and 2 seasons ago and the amount of assists he was getting, how he was getting forward, and he's not doing that at the moment. So, yeah, I completely agree.
I agree also. I think there's better options currently at the minute on better form, playing better football. So, no.
Question then on Trent Alexander-Arnold then. If he carries on this season and Liverpool are as inconsistent as they have been for most of this season, do you take him to the Euros anyway because of his overall quality or not?
Good question. There's a lot of games still to play, I think, between now and the end of the season.
Something like that, 9 games?
Yeah, 9 games. He's got a chance to turn it around. If he continues, you'll have to ask me again nearer the time, I think. I'm not sure. Personally, I'm leaning more towards take him. But, yeah, nearer the time, I think we need to have that discussion.
It's one of those, isn't it? As you say, Rob, it's kind of like a do you, don't you, 50-50 almost thing. I mean, I think I'm slightly leaning the other way and would say maybe not take him at the moment if he carries on his form as it is now. And I know Liverpool have been poor and they're starting to pick up in terms of points and performances the last few games. And if his form picks up, then yes, definitely take him. So like Rob said, it's kind of one ask me closer to the time. But if things carry on the way they're going, then I wouldn't see an issue in Southgate leaving him out of the squad altogether for the Euros.
Kyle?
I'm just waiting for these two to get the splinters out of their backsides. Just love the fence. I wouldn't take him. I think that, as I've said, great player. I have a bit of an affiliation for Kieran Trippier. I think he's brilliant. I think that if we... it depends on the rest of the squad, obviously. But I wouldn't take him because Gareth Southgate likes playing 5 at the back. He likes playing Kyle Walker at the right-hand side of that 3. Therefore, that makes up for Kieran Trippier's lack of pace. And I think, for example, Wan-Bissaka's having a better season than Trent defensively. If you want an aggressive fullback, one that can deliver, wing-back, then Trippier's absolutely fine. You have other right-back options. We probably have about 14 in each squad. So let's try another one. So I
Well, I think
just wouldn't take him.
if Trent comes out and, has an amazing last 9 games of the season, I think then, yeah. I mean, at the minute, no. But, I mean, if he has an amazing last 9 games of the season, for me, you always have to take the players that are in form, and if he suddenly comes into form, then yes. I think that's what me and Rob were saying. But, if he stays as he is, then I wouldn't take him at all.
Yeah, I agree with what Mike's just said. We're saying at this current time, Southgate's picked his squad. Had this squad that he's picked now be the squad that he's taken to the Euros and there's no Trent, I don't think any of us are really arguing against that, because he has had such a poor season by his own standards and compared to other players of his position. However, as I think me and Mike were saying, let's see how the rest of these games go, because he's not picked the squad for Euros now. He's still got a chance to make changes before the tournament. So if he was picking the squad now, no, he doesn't get on the plane. Unless we're playing all the games in England, which is another matter altogether. But
even need to be a plane.
Pardon?
There might not even need to be a plane. We can
exactly.
Yeah.
You can get a megabus.
I think they can do slightly better than that.
Other coach services are available.
What other coach services are available?
National Express.
Rob making a play for BBC.
Let's go then from somebody that's not into the squad to somebody that is named in the squad but might not actually be there. Jude Bellingham. Bit of a strange scenario. Of course, he's been named by Gareth Southgate, but due to German travel restrictions at the moment, there's a reasonably high chance he won't be allowed to join up with the squad. But Gareth is pinning all his hopes on a slight technicality and something changing at some point, and hey presto, you've got yourselves an informed world-class centre mid at the moment. What do we make of it? Is it a big risk to be like, well, is he going to have to send a few little bribes to the German travel authorities, or is the,
He's not Big Sam. Calm down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're not thinking illegal.
He's not been filmed in a pub. Oh, grief. I would say das ist nicht gut. There you go.
What guys would do. So.
Order a pint of wine. So I think for me, I wouldn't have picked him. I would, on form, if he could get in or could join the squad and it's a guarantee, yeah, get him in, fine. I think a lot of the players who perhaps would have been picked in front of him, that you said they're either injured, your Grealish, Maddison, Harvey Barnes perhaps, all out injured, and then you've got your under-21 squad for the Euros with the way that's been formatted this year. So I think they take precedence over joining up with the England squad for what should be 3 pretty straightforward games. I would have probably taken a punt on somebody else that's probably in the country and guaranteed to be able to join the squad. Maybe for morale purposes of somebody that might be on the fringes more than anything else. Because you've got a reasonable explanation to Jude. Sorry, pal. You're not allowed. Angela won't let you out.
Yeah. She's strict as Angela, isn't she? No, I totally agree with you, Carl. As quality a player as Jude Bellingham is, and I think the 4 of us would all agree, he is a fantastic footballer and will be one of the future stars of the England team. I just think that at this moment in time, with the way the travel laws are and COVID and all of that, it probably would have been better off picking somebody else. And yes, obviously there's players in the under-21s going to their Euros that you'd maybe have, like Emile Smith-Rowe, for example, who's been great the last few games for Arsenal. Personally, somebody for me like Harrison from Leeds, 6 goals, 5 assists this season, can play all across the sort of left, right, centre mid, cam roles. Would have been a great person to have the chance of playing, especially in these games, as you say, because they're fairly winnable. So to give them the chance at England level. But yeah, I wouldn't have taken Bellingham.
Can I just interrupt, actually, just on Mike's point there, though, of, these games are the winnable ones. Is that the same time, is that the reason, though, for taking the risk and getting Bellingham? Because if things change and Bellingham is allowed to join with the squad, there is simple games for him to play in, or simple on paper at least, games for him to get experience in before going to the Euros.
Good point.
Very good point.
Point, yeah.
Just going back to the original question, I wouldn't have picked Bellingham either. I think, given say the travel restrictions in Germany and the next game is in what 5 days time, I think.
Yeah, Thursday.
Policy, but I can't see things turning around that quickly from allowing people to leave the country or not leave the country in such a short space of time. So no, I wouldn't have picked him either. Is it an opportunity? It would have been in ordinary circumstances for me. It was San Marino and Albania. They're, as you say, simpler games on paper. Poland might be a bit more tricky. You might want more experienced midfielders, players that have played on the international level before in that game. Appreciate it's quite a young squad and quite a young midfield though that we've picked. But yeah, just reverting back to the original question. No, I want to put him in, and I think whoever you put on that pitch against Albania and San Marino, they've got it's a big chance to make a name for themselves against lesser opponents. Get themselves on the score sheet, get some assists. Get the ball moving.
Think Carlton Partner score against San Marino?
I think it's one of those, isn't it? It's like, yeah, you can say what you've said, Chris, and like, yeah, he might be able to play and he'd probably do really well, but what's the point of taking that risk when there's quite a lot of other quality footballers who could take his place and actually play?
Fair point. I think, to be fair, I really, to be honest, should have looked at this beforehand, but just come to mind is like, well, where have Bayern Munich been travelling to in the Champions League games? So if they've been able to do it, why can't Bellingham leave to join with an England squad?
Bubbles.
That's probably a fair point. Bubbles.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Not just Michael Jackson's monkey, also very prominent in COVID times.
Yeah, I love the bubbles in COVID.
I never thought Michael Jackson's monkey would get mentioned on this, but if you're watching,
that's why I'm here. Is the monkey still alive? Do we? That's a fact that we need to check.
I hope Bubbles is watching this. Shout out to Bubbles.
He might be the only viewer.
I wouldn't have risked it. Like you say, what's the point of calling up a player who might not actually be allowed to play?
Yeah, completely agree. Mike mentioned a couple of players there that he'd have in the squad instead of. I can't really disagree with either of those. I think they're both. Harrison in particular, young, exciting player. He can he can use the left foot, right foot, play on the left or on the right. He's got that kind of ability. Similar, I looked at Jared Bowen. Not sure he's been as consistent though, unfortunately. I rate Jared Bowen, but there's a shout for him. The other one I looked at was Mark Albrighton, but he's older than I thought he was actually. He's Albrighton, but
how old is
again, he's 31 now, so and he's a wide player. Whereas obviously Bellingham, personally, I prefer Bellingham through the middle. I think he's better driving forward. A bit like Oxlade-Chamberlain has done in the past. That kind of central bull type player, a bit of strength about him. So central players, I think we are struggling. I had a look at Tom Davies, then I quickly got off his profile.
Profile? What was he on? Tinder?
He realised he wasn't a footballer.
Swiping left on him, mate. I'm telling you. I don't really get what he offers. If any Everton fans want to watch this and correct me, but I don't get what he brings to the team. He just seems like an extra number that Carlo Ancelotti just thinks, I'm going to have to, raise his eyebrows at. That's all Carlo does.
Massive battle here, but I actually quite like Tom Davies. But let's not get bogged down on Tom Davies. Who else is there? Kyle, Mike, start with Kyle.
Tarkovsky can play centre mid. Easy. Get him in.
If you want to go the Burnley route, I did look at different sort of player, but Ashley Westwood has had a great season. Takes fantastic set pieces, strong, passes the ball really well. So one of those players that could come in and play that sort of almost defensive role if he wants to have two holding players, Southgate. I think the one thing against him is he's 30.
Just how much did Kyle pay you to get Ashley Westwood into this? Because he's the Burnley fan. That's his job.
Oh, a lot of payment.
Listen, I have gone through this whole thing for this video prep, not wanting to mention one Burnley player. But if Mike is willing to do it, I'm not going to challenge him.
Agree.
Can I just say that Mike did offer me a large amount of money to mention Newcastle players, but I turned him down. Just
Well,
That's 'cause they're all shit.
You don't want to lose your credibility.
whoa,
Yeah,
language.
Championship players anyway.
Exactly.
Well, Championship players. I mean, I did look at Todd Cantwell because I think he's a good quality player. He did well in the Premier League last season at Norwich. I feel like he's one of them again. Stick him on the left, stick him through the middle, stick him on the right. He travels with the ball well. I think he's intelligent with his runs. I think he's got good vision. His link-up play is good. And I think that's the kind of player that, would I put him in the squad at the minute? Probably not. But I think if he gets, chances are he's going to be in the Premiership next season with Norwich. 100%, I'd say, in fact.
Yeah,
I feel like if he had a good run of games and the tournament was, not this summer, perhaps it won't. Having said that, is the World Cup the year after? Due to
2022.
Qatar.
Yeah,
It's in December, isn't it?
I'd say it this way with Cantwell. When Norwich went down, you look at Norwich players as everyone does and goes like, right, which players do you think could stay in the Premier League? Which players would you have? And I think Cantwell was definitely one of those that you'd go, do you know what? There's quite a few Premier League clubs would probably take a punt at Cantwell.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'd say you got like the likes of what's the fullback called that went to Newcastle?
Lewis and Godfrey obviously went to Everton.
Yeah, Godfrey went to Everton. Max Aarons, he's been sniffed around by a lot of big clubs in Europe. Bayern Munich, I think, will link with him.
Yeah.
So yes, he plays in the Championship, but if the quality's there and it looks like he's going to be back in the Premiership, and I kind of feel like he did well in the Premiership last time around.
Yeah.
This time around, he's had a year out in the Championship. He's built himself up more. He's more experienced. I feel like he could be one to keep an eye out for England squads in the future, just not at the minute.
So, just here's the thing, though. What's the difference in quality, really, between playing in a side that might be bottom 5 in the Premier League against playing a side that is, frankly, running away with the Championship title anyway, and when he is being such a key part of how well they're playing, really? Because they're a form side, they're playing well. Look at anyone from, Southampton in the Premier League table down. Nobody's that consistent. Nobody's playing that well week in, week out.
How rude. How rude. I think you'll find.
I would agree with that.
I think you'll find Nick Pope is playing fantastically well. He needs to get us points.
As a club.
Yes. We have many good players.
The quality of opposition, Chris, I think is what you would say, isn't it?
Yeah, the thing with Cantwell is Grealish this time round, because Grealish did the same with Villa. When Villa went down, when they were in the Championship, everyone expected him to leave. He didn't. He didn't leave. Signed a new deal, and now he's not only their main man, but he's been spoken about quite consistently with being linked with top 4 clubs, top 6 clubs, being in the England squad. For example, he would be one of the first names down in the England squad now. Absolutely no question about it. And that is testament to the fact he learned a lot, I would think, in that season, in that time at Villa in the Championship when they were looking to come up. He learned a lot. Todd Cantwell's going to do the same. I mean, whether Cantwell comes up with Norwich, stays with Norwich, and develops like that, probably not. He's not as talismanic, but yes, he is going to be a really, really good Premier League player.
Yeah, definitely.
So I would have taken a punt on him ahead of Bellingham if Bellingham can't travel.
Fair enough.
Agreed.
Mike, who would you be? You one man if you had to choose another kind of Bellingham replacement?
Jack Cork.
As I said, I think Harrison would probably be mine.
It's hard to argue against that. As you say, he's had a very good season. Leeds have had a terrific season. And if, Calvin Phillips can get in the England squad, let's be honest, quite regularly over the last 12 months or so, then there would seem very little reason for Harrison to do so. And of course,
you think when Phillips got in the England squad first time, there was still a Championship club that just come up, granted, but there was still a Championship club.
Point that, Mike. Yeah, he hadn't kicked the ball in the Premiership, had he?
Yeah. I'm right thinking as well, Harrison is technically a Manchester City player. He's on loan, isn't he?
Yes.
Yes, he is.
So,
sorry, I need to pay my central heating bill, so I've had to put a jacket on.
You've also appeared to have frozen a little bit, but we'll carry on and hope that clears itself up. I don't know whether it's frozen on your screen, but
Yeah,
hey, the wonders of Zoom.
Yeah, a bit frozen on mine as well, Kyle.
Frozen halfway through putting the jacket on. So it's like your heating bill's been half paid.
No, I'm frozen at home as well. Maybe not on the screen, but I'm definitely frozen.
Let's move on then. So Kyle has sorted out his electric bill and he's now back with us. So we were just going to move on really from the attacking mid role and who would replace Jude Bellingham with to the one man that I feel like you all want to get rid of from the England squad. Mike, who's it going to be?
Yeah, I think there's no choice here looking at the England squad who it would be, and that is Eric Dier. You can try to argue that he's versatile, but whichever position you put him in, he's not very good. So, what's the point of him being versatile at the minute? His form this season hasn't been great, and he's not played a lot recently. I'm going to pass over to Rob because I think Rob's been looking up some of his stats recently. So, Rob?
Yeah, it's more just his game involvement. Just over like the last 10 games, for example, he played 120 minutes against Zagreb in the Europa League. Didn't play at all against Arsenal in the Premiership before that. Again, he played against Zagreb 90 minutes in the Europa League. He didn't play for any of the 3 previous Premiership games against Palace, Fulham and Burnley. And now we're going back to, again, another Europa League game against Wolfsberger from Austria. And it's a bit, to me, if you're going to be in that England squad, you've got to be playing week in, week out for your club.
Yeah.
You
can't argue he's got form, can you?
No, I appreciate the Spurs are playing on different fields, so to speak, different competitions, but players should be able to play 2 games a week and maybe have one rest. But if you were that, to me, I feel like Spurs and Jose Mourinho in particular their priority will be the Premier League, not the Europa League. So to me, your best player should be playing in the Premier League to try and guarantee top 4, not the Europa League. And that's where I feel like he's one of them kind of fringe players for Spurs who's playing in the Europa League. Another point Mike mentioned about his versatility, but the guy's 28 years old, and I still don't know which one is his best position. Is he a centre half? Is he a holding mid? Right back, I don't think so. We've got better options in all 3 positions for me at holding mid, centre half, and at right back. And as I say, it's all right being a utility player, but to me, by the age of 28, I think he's 28, 27, 28, you should really have a nailed down. This is my position. However, I can fill in elsewhere if needed.
Yeah, you should know what you are by that point. Honestly, when you started putting out the game time thing, then I thought you were full Mike Bassett. Well, out of the last 10 games, he's only completed 2. Full Gary Wackett. But he doesn't even have that. He doesn't even have that physicality, really, actually, does Eric Dier, to be fair.
Oh, so I don't know. I saw him storming up them steps towards his brother.
Oh, yeah. But you think the games he's played recently, that game against Zagreb, they got turned over, Spurs. So you can't even say that those games have been successful for Spurs. He's played all that time against Zagreb because they've won the first leg and thinking that they would ease through, but they've got absolutely pasted by them, with him in the squad.
So let's go to Kyle then. The alternative options. And let's be honest, like, if we class Eric Dier as a centre half, England have currently got a lot of fairly similarly good centre half players. The options are, Kyle?
I wish I had an envelope, Chris, so I could open it like the Oscars. Michael Keane, that's the option. I don't want to go and talk about the other options because I'll only get upset because most of them play for Burnley and we're not putting them in. But Michael Keane is the obvious choice. The obvious choice. You can pass him a football and he can play well with it. You could argue maybe that John Stones is there instead of him. But why have either or? Take them both. Put both in the squad. Don't shoehorn in Eric Dier because he scored a penalty at a World Cup and once. I don't need it. Put Michael Keane in. Michael Keane is fantastic. He's been brilliant this season. And yes, I have got some bias anyway. He was fantastic for Burnley. we always knew he was going to leave and go on to better things. It's not his fault that Pickford plays behind him for club and most of the country. But he has generally gone on to better things. And Mike, don't ever do that action again. That probably didn't come across as you wanted
Good
it
impression.
to. I'll be honest, that could get some groups of people quite upset. But generally, he is a great player. He's fantastic. And especially this season, he has been brilliant. So you can't really look aside from anyone else. You could argue, I could chuck in Tarkowski. I'd never chuck in Ben Mee. I love Ben Mee. He turned our season around this season, but he's got a mistake in him. Every single game, he's got a mistake in him. So you can't count him. He's not England quality. You've got other players in the centre. You've Lewis Dunk. You've got Ben White at Brighton, who's decent. Not had as good season as he did last year at Leeds, but still, really good player.
Yeah.
Conser at Villa. You've got so many options that I think are better than Dier, and we all think are better than Dier, that I mean, we're not the England manager, so he must have a reason why he's doing it. Might be the
Nice
waistcoat
to know the
too
reason, though,
tight.
wouldn't it?
I think it is the waistcoat cutting the blood flow because he's put a few pounds on over lockdown, like most of us have. So it's cut the blood flow. He's not quite sure what he's doing. And that's why he's picked a player who can't get on an aeroplane, and Eric Dier, who we don't want on an aeroplane.
Are there any cigarette packets with Dier on them? Maybe that's the reason.
There might be after the health warning. Might be a different spelling. You could expect to see Kieran Dier at the Euros.
Who knows? Mike, you've been busy with the statistics, though, to be fair. And Kyle's just reeled through most of the other names and the other options there are, though. But from a stats perspective, actually, just to make you happy, really, to make sure your day hasn't been fully wasted, where do the stats point to?
The stats don't lie in terms of what Cal said, that Michael Keane is without a doubt the best. You look at things like the duels that he wins, 64% normal duels, 71% aerial duels. But on top of that, you look at the type of football that Southgate wants to play is possession and out from the back. And he's made over 1,500 passes in his 27 games. So that's like 57 passes per game. And on top of that, he scored 3 goals this season, Michael Keane. So he's proven himself to be good defensively, but also good in terms of linking up the play and then scoring goals when he needs to from set pieces, which we know how important set pieces are in football these days. So yeah, everything points to Michael Keane.
Absolutely. Rob, final word on Michael Keane. Is that where your head would go?
I agree with Kyle. I feel like Tarkowski deserves more praise, and I think he does deserve some, more chances, I think, on the international stage.
Any chances would be good.
Any chances would be good. I feel like maybe a slight, maybe a word in for Craig Dawson at West Ham. I feel like he hasn't played that many games, played about 13 games, I think, but, he has come in, he's played very well. Is it too soon for him? Has he played enough? Does Southgate prefer maybe a more younger centre-half, as Dawson is now 30, I believe?
Yeah.
Possibly, maybe Conser, like mentioned earlier, he might be one that he might be keeping an eye on for. He's got the pace and the strength, good on the ball, good passer. Again, probably might be a bit too soon. So, no, I completely agree with the other two guys. Michael Keane for me.
There we go. Well, that seems to be nicely wrapped up. So let's go forward then. Ollie Watkins getting his first international call-up for Southgate. First things first, what do we think of that? Does he deserve to be there?
Yes.
Before we get to the other options, does Watkins prefer to,
That's it. Put your teeth in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he does. I think I would have, and this does pain me to say a little bit, I would have preferred to take Bamford into this squad. But that's, again, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. It really doesn't make a difference. They're both playing really well. Watkins plays really well for Villa. Bamford plays really well for Leeds. The one thing you could possibly say, and I've not got an Excel spreadsheet open, unlike Mike. He may have looked at this, but the one thing you may say is that Bamford needs a little more chances to score than Watkins does. So you're more likely to get a goal out of Watkins from fewer chances. However, from what we were saying before about Jude Bellingham going in, you should be getting a lot of chances in these games.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really make a difference. Can you argue against Watkins? Possibly. Would I? Absolutely not. Could you argue for Bamford? Yes. But I don't think it really matters. This is what I was going to say actually on the Bellingham thing. You could have chucked both of them two in. You could have chucked Bamford and Watkins in because we're really going to. What would be the problem with that?
Yeah.
No, I agree with Kyle on that. It could have been either or for me. Again, I kind of agree. Why not both? It's not both, obviously. It's Watkins. I feel like Watkins probably, maybe his all-round game's a bit better than Bamford's. Bamford's obviously a brilliant goal scorer. I think his movement's good, but I think in terms of hold-up play, pace, link-up play, I don't know if Watkins has a bit of an edge. Aerial presence as well. I'd probably lean more towards Watkins. I'd quite happily stick Watkins wide left as well, cutting inside. Not sure I could put Bamford anywhere else but that pure central striking position. So maybe if Southgate's looking at playing three up top, you could stick Watkins in maybe one of the wider positions.
Yeah, agree with that. I think the fact that Watkins could probably play left or right, to be honest, with his pace and his ability to run in behind is probably one of the reasons why he's in the squad. Although Bamford, massive shout for Bamford. I mean, there were so many people at the start of the season who were saying not good enough for the Premier League, won't score goals, but I will hold my hands up and say I was one of them as well. But 14 goals, fourth top goal scorer. I believe he is the second top English goal scorer behind Kane. Shows how good he is at putting the ball in the back of the net. The one thing, as you said, Kyle, I think looking at the stats behind it, is 17 big chances he's missed this season, which is the most of any English top flight player, which tells another story in itself. I mean, it could be one or two things. It could be that he misses those chances, or it could be that Leeds are just creating so many chances with the football that they play. I suppose you don't know until you give him a chance in a team like England. So, yeah, there was definitely a massive shout to take Bamford, and I think he can be really unlucky to have not been in there. But I think because of the way Watkins plays and the fact that he can play in a couple of different forward positions, it's probably why he's been given the shout.
Before we kind of start to wrap this up, really, any other glaring omissions from the squad? Any other players in the squad that you're unsure really as to why they're there? The one thing that I'm just quickly going to get out there is just how well Jesse Lingard has been playing and how deserved that call-up is. Been a long time for Jesse Lingard in an England side.
Deserves it. I've always liked Jesse Lingard as a player. I think that he's maybe obviously has a lot of off the field problems, and not in a negative way for him, not problems of his own doing, but a lot of things going on off the field that he just couldn't help, and have put a lot of pressure on him that meant he's lost a lot of football this year. I like him. I think he's a good player, and he said, I know he gets that joke about him, as a good young up and coming player and all that sort of stuff, and that's thrown at him, but he is a good player, and David Moyes likes him, and David Moyes is going to put his faith in him and look at the results.
Yeah.
And when he knows he's the main man, or one of the main men, he says he's been brought in alongside Ben Rama to unlock opposition defences. When he has that confidence put in him, I think he's very much, a lot better of a player. So yeah, definitely, I think crack on. Yeah, great addition.
Yeah, can't deny how well he's done over the last, a few games since he joined West Ham. He's made a massive difference to them. They were doing well anyway, but he scored goals, he's assisted them, he's just given them another dynamic going forward. So yeah, I think he well deserves to be in there. I think the issue with him at Man United is he was a good player but struggled to get into the team because he was surrounded by players who were as good, if not sometimes better than him. Whereas at West Ham, he is still surrounded by good players, but he's got more of a chance of getting in the squad on a regular basis. And now he's in a squad regularly. He's showing how good a footballer he actually is.
Yeah, absolutely. Rob?
Yeah, I completely agree with Mike and Kyle on that. The thing is with Lingard as well, he's played at tournaments previously. He did pretty well at the last World Cup, didn't he, in Russia? He scored a couple of goals. Definitely at least one. I remember one he curled in. I can't remember who it was against now. Who did we put 6 past? I think it was that game. Panama. Yeah.
Panama,
I remember he scored an absolute, he's quite a bit of a big game player. He's got quite a few goals in cup finals, semi-finals, that kind of thing for United in the past. So yeah, no complaints with Rashford. Lingard being there. Fully deserves it.
So final thoughts then, and any other queries, anybody else that you think shouldn't be in that squad, anybody that you think definitely should have been in that squad in this current one?
Not for me. I think injuries have dictated quite a chunk of the squad. I think we wouldn't be having half the conversations you can have now about the squad if players aren't injured, and we've got a fully fit pool to select from. There's a couple of others I would like to see Aaron Cresswell in there, but again, he's wrong side of 30. He isn't going to be in that squad past next year's World Cup. I love him as a player. I think he's brilliant, but again, he isn't going to be there long term. Chilwell's 24. Luke Shaw's in the form of his life, especially since breaking his leg at Man United. He's never been better. So as a pure left back, you can't drop them. And he said Chilwell's going to be there for the next 8 years, so you're not going to get rid of him. But he's probably the only shout for me. But again, who do you put him in instead of?
Yeah, that's the hard part, isn't it? That really is.
Which shows you that the squad is a good choice for me.
Rob?
Yeah, I think I agree. I did have a look at Connor Cody, whether or not he kind of fully deserves to be in there this season. Wolves have had a bit of a tricky season. Appreciate they've been blighted by injuries. Quite a nasty one too. Raul Jimenez that stands out in particular. But Wolves' form this season compared with last season, and Cody's form for that matter as well. Positives for Cody being in there. He's used to playing free at the back, so if that's what Southgate wants to do, he's played for England before and impressed when he's been called up. So maybe that's playing on Southgate's mind as well. Yes, he hasn't been that as good for his club, but when he has been called up to international duty, he has performed. And again, like Kyle said, are any of the other players, maybe bar Michael Keane, any other centre halves that I'd put in instead of Connor Cody? No, I wouldn't. So again, I agree with Kyle. I think the injuries have dictated the squad a little bit, but in terms of any glaring omissions or players that are in that definitely shouldn't be in, apart from the ones we've already highlighted, nothing further to add.
And the final word on that, then, Mike, really from you.
Yeah, I think it's a tough one because obviously, as Kyle said, there's so many injuries or people who've been injured recently. If we didn't have the injuries, you'd think Grealish, Maddison, Harvey Barnes, potentially players who would definitely be in there. I think there is a case for somebody like Aaron Cresswell as a left back who's done fantastic this season. I think he's got something like seven assists, and he takes a really good set piece. Yes, he's sort of at an age where Southgate probably wouldn't look at him. If you're looking at other left backs, maybe Matt Targett, who's 25, who has had a fantastic season for Villa, 14 clean sheets. You can't, knock how well they've done. But again, it's a who do they replace in the squad kind of thing. For me, I would go like for like and be like, well, you'd replace a left back with a left back, and you're thinking if it's going to be one of Shaw or Chilwell, it would be Chilwell because he hasn't really played as much under Thomas Tuchel as he had under Lampard, but he had such a good start to the season under Lampard that it shows what a quality player he is. So would you realistically leave him out just because he's only played maybe 5 of the last 10 games? And you probably wouldn't leave him out just because of that. So yeah, I would say that unfortunately for those other, Cresswell, Target, you wouldn't include them.
That's fair. That is fair. So final thing then really is to look ahead to these upcoming games. And as we've said, 2 out of the 3 of them, at least, fairly simple on paper. San Marino being the first one, that's on Thursday, a 7:45 kickoff for that one. I want to go through score predictions, something that we can be battling against each other with, and something we can be held accountable for our potentially awful predictions. San Marino then on Thursday. I will kick this one off. I'm going to go for a nice, modest 5-0 England victory. Kyle?
I'm going to go full Len Goodman. 7-0.
7-0. I am making notes of this just so that, you know.
Please do, Chris. Please do,
absolutely.
because when I'm right, then you can all look at me and think, what a genius.
Mike?
I'm going to go a little bit more conservative and say 4.
That's because you're a Newcastle fan.
Yeah, pessimistic.
And finally, Rob, for the San Marino game.
Well, that's interesting because before any of you actually gave your score predictions, I had 6 in my head. So yeah, 6-0.
4, 5, 6, and 7. Fair
It's
enough.
a shame we didn't have 5, 6, 7, 8 because we could have turned that into a song.
That would have been a step in the wrong direction, though.
Hey!
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 Albania on Sunday is the game after. Now, that is an away game. So, you know, there's no easy games in international football. So I'm going to go for a 3-0 win.
Me again, is it?
It is.
I'm going to take the winning advantage that you've got and say we'll score 4, but we'll concede 1.
Ooh. And Mike?
Yeah, I've got written down here probably just to go for 2-0. Yeah, I think it might be a change of squad for that game and, you know, just a solid 2-0.
And Rob?
Yeah, same as Mike. Before, I had 2-0 in my head before anyone said their suggestions. So yeah, 2-0.
I can't believe we've all been dogging Eric Dier and you've given him 2 clean sheets.
He's not playing, that's the thing.
Oh, right, I see.
Finally, the toughest one, without a doubt, on paper. The Poland game. That's a week on Wednesday, 7:45 kickoff. I will go for a narrow 2-1 win, I think, with that one.
You see, I'm so tempted to say 1-0 Eric Dier penalty, but I'm not. I'm not going that brave. I'm gonna say 2-0.
Yeah, I agree with Kyle. I think before I've written down that I think it's going to be 2-0. I can't see us conceding a goal just because of the way Southgate sets up. We're quite strong defensively. Can't see us running away with it. So 2-0, solid.
Lewandowski. Go on, Rob. Your prediction?
Yeah, same as you, mate. 2-1 for me.
Yeah. So it's fairly clear that we know exactly which game is going to be the most difficult. You watch, that'd be the one that we somehow turn up and put like 5 past them.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be a shame. As long as they don't put 5 past us, I'm not really bothered.
Jude Bellingham's going to get an hat-trick.
Lose to San Marino. Yeah, beat Poland 5-0.
Oh, if we lost to San Marino, could you imagine? Oh, God.
I mean,
if you conceded a goal to San Marino.
We've done that before. Didn't they score their quickest ever international goal against us?
Yeah, about 10 seconds in, I think.
Yeah.
No, good. Let's end on a positive note, lads. Yes.
Yeah.
Woo!
Nailed it.
Let's gloss over that. So there we go. That's our thoughts, really, then, on the England squad, the players that we think should be in there. I was going to say the players that we think shouldn't, but sorry, Eric. And then predictions for these international games. We will be back with another video very soon that will be related to the club season. That'll be out before long. Don't forget to give us a like and a follow on Twitter and Facebook. Subscribe to us on the YouTube channel. And also get in touch with us. Give your comments on Twitter as well. We would like to get your thoughts and views on the videos and any ideas as well and things you'd like us to do going forward would always be appreciated. So from me, Chris, and the rest of the lads, it's been a pleasure. And we look forward to seeing you on the next video here on Leicester Dressing Room.